Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into Islamic meditation practices today.
Okay.
Going beyond that image of just like stereotypical meditation. You shared 3 sources with us, and I'm really curious to see how these practices can bring stillness, but also like deepen your connection with Allah.
It's fascinating. I think how much emphasis is placed on
Yeah.
mindfulness and presence in Islamic teachings.
Right.
And while it might not be as widely discussed as in some other traditions,
Sure.
it's deeply embedded in the fabric of Islamic spirituality.
I was surprised to learn about the variety of practices too.
Yeah.
It's not just about sitting in silence. It's about actively cultivating a state of awareness
Exactly.
and connection with the divine.
And one of the core concepts here is muraqabah,
Okay.
the Arabic term for mindful awareness of Allah's presence.
Okay.
It's about living with the profound knowledge that Allah is always watching over us.
Oh, that reminds me of the Hadith of Gabriel. Worship as if you see him because he sees you.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder to bring that level of presence and awareness into our worship.
And muraqabah is more than just a theoretical concept.
Yeah.
It's intrinsically linked to taqwa, the idea of God consciousness, which is central to Islamic practice.
Right.
By cultivating muraqabah, we're essentially building that bridge between the practice of mindfulness and the deeper spiritual goal of taqwa.
So it's like a stepping stone,
Yes.
a way to bring that awareness of Allah into every aspect of our lives.
Yes.
Not just during formal prayer or meditation.
Precisely. And this leads us to the 5 specific meditation practices outlined in the About Islam article that you shared.
Okay.
These offer a practical framework for integrating muraqabah into daily life.
The first practice, tafakkur, or reflection,
Yeah.
really resonated with me.
Yes.
It's about taking time to ponder and contemplate,
Yeah.
which seems especially crucial in today's world of constant distractions.
It's about carving out space for intentional thought,
Right.
especially in a world where our attention is constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions.
Yeah.
The article suggests starting small.
Okay.
Maybe dedicating a few minutes after prayer to simply focus on the closeness of Allah.
I can see how that could be a powerful way to shift your mindset from the business of the day
Yeah.
to a state of spiritual reflection.
And that's where the power of silence comes in.
Right.
It's not just the absence of noise,
Yeah.
but a deliberate act of quieting the mind to make space for deeper contemplation.
The article quotes the Prophet, PBUH, saying, "Whoever believes in Allah and the last day,
Yeah.
let him speak goodness or remain silent." I wonder if we could unpack this a bit further. What does speaking goodness mean
Yeah.
in the context of our modern digital world?
Yeah.
How can silence be a form of resisting the negativity that often surrounds us?
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Perhaps speaking goodness today could mean being mindful of what we consume and share online.
Oh, there.
It's about choosing to amplify positivity and avoid engaging in harmful speech or spreading negativity.
Right.
And silence can be a powerful tool in this context.
Yeah.
It allows us to step back from the constant noise and choose our words carefully.
So it's not about never speaking,
Right.
but rather about recognizing the value of silence and using it intentionally
Yes.
to cultivate inner peace and promote goodness in the world.
Exactly. It's about bringing that awareness of Allah into our communication and choosing to speak or remain silent
Yeah.
in a way that reflects our values and deepens our connection with the divine.
The second practice from the About Islam article
Yes.
focuses on gratitude.
Right.
I've always found that keeping a gratitude journal can be a helpful way to shift my perspective,
Yeah.
but I never thought about it as an act of worship.
In Islam, gratitude is elevated beyond a simple feeling.
Okay.
It's about recognizing and appreciating the countless blessings Allah has bestowed upon us.
Right.
As Umar ibn Abdulaziz said, speaking in remembrance of Allah Almighty is good, and thinking about the blessings of Allah is the best act of worship.
Wow.
It's not just about saying thank you,
Yeah.
but about truly pondering and reflecting on those blessings.
I've never considered gratitude as a form of worship before. That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It transforms gratitude from a fleeting emotion into a conscious act of recognizing Allah's presence and acknowledging our dependence on His grace.
The third practice, seclusion, is
Yeah.
one that I think many of us struggle with
Yeah.
in today's hyper-connected world.
It's about creating space for solitude and disconnecting from the constant demands of the external world. world.
Right.
The article highlights how Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, sought solitude, recognizing its importance for spiritual renewal and connection with Allah.
It's interesting how the need for seclusion seems even more essential today,
Yeah.
given the constant bombardment of information and stimulation we face. Our brains are constantly engaged, making it challenging to find those moments of quiet reflection.
And this is where the practice of seclusion becomes an act of resistance against the overwhelming noise of modern life. It's about reclaiming those moments of quiet and using them to cultivate inner peace and connect with Allah on a deeper level.
So it's not about becoming hermits and withdrawing from the world completely, but about recognizing the value of solitude and intentionally creating space for it in our lives.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between engaging with the world and nurturing our spiritual well-being through moments of quiet contemplation.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Islamic meditation.
We've covered so much ground already. Exploring the concept of muraqabah and delving into those first three practices from the About Islam article: tafakkur, gratitude, and seclusion. I'm starting to see how each one in its own way helps us cultivate that mindful awareness of Allah's presence. It's fascinating how these practices, while seemingly distinct, are all interconnected and contribute to a more holistic sense of Islamic mindfulness.
Speaking of interconnectedness, the next practice from the article, dhikr, is one that I'm familiar with. But I appreciated the reminder that it can be so much more than a routine recitation. It's about infusing those words with intention and presence.
Dhikr, the remembrance of Allah, is incredibly powerful when practiced mindfully. The article suggests using natural wooden beads to help focus your attention and connect with the physical sensations of the beads as you recite.
I love that idea. It reminds me of how some people find that using a tasbih during prayer helps them stay focused and present.
It's about engaging all of our senses in the act of remembrance, bringing our hearts and minds fully into the experience.
You mentioned earlier that the Yaqin Institute article emphasizes the idea of mindfulness in daily life. I'm curious to hear more about how we can take the practice of muraqabah beyond those dedicated moments of meditation.
It's about weaving that awareness of Allah's presence into the fabric of our everyday experiences. For example, when we're eating, are we truly savoring the flavors and appreciating the nourishment Allah has provided? When we're interacting with others, are we listening attentively and speaking with kindness, recognizing that our interactions are a reflection of our faith?
You mentioned silence defeats Satan's whispers. What does that mean practically? How can we use silence to counter those negative thoughts that sometimes pop into our minds?
It's about recognizing that silence is not empty, but a space where we can connect with our inner selves and with Allah. When we quiet the external noise and the chatter of our own minds, we create a space where those negative whispers lose their power.
So it's about training ourselves to recognize those negative thoughts as just that thoughts, and choosing not to engage with them.
Exactly. Silence helps us create that distance, allowing us to observe those thoughts without judgment and choose to focus on what is positive and beneficial.
The fifth and final practice from the About Islam article is Quran recitation. I think many of us have experienced how soothing and uplifting it can be to read even a few verses.
The Quran itself is a form of dhikr, a reminder of Allah's words and guidance. And engaging with it mindfully can be an incredibly powerful form of meditation.
I find that when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, reading the Quran brings a sense of peace and clarity. It's like a balm for the soul.
It's a direct connection to the divine, a source of wisdom and comfort that can guide us through the challenges of life.
So far, we focused primarily on the About Islam article, which provides a great overview of those 5 practices. But I'm also really intrigued by the Yaqin Institute article, which seems to offer a deeper dive into the nuances of Islamic mindfulness.
Yes, it delves into the specific ways in which Islamic mindfulness differs from secular mindfulness practices. For example, while secular mindfulness often focuses on simply observing thoughts and emotions without judgment, Islamic mindfulness goes further by encouraging us to view those thoughts and emotions through the lens of our relationship with Allah.
So it's not just about being aware of our internal state, but also about understanding how that internal state is influenced by and influences our connection with the divine.
Exactly. And the Yaqin Institute article highlights how Islamic mindfulness emphasizes the concept of muraqabah as a core element of this practice.
Right.
It's about recognizing that even our thoughts and feelings are subject to Allah's knowledge and awareness.
That adds a whole other dimension to mindfulness.
Right.
It's not just about self-awareness, but about God consciousness, recognizing that even our inner world is part of our relationship with Allah.
And this awareness can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, that even our most private thoughts and feelings are known and understood by Allah.
That's a really comforting thought, especially when we're dealing with challenging emotions like anxiety or sadness.
The Yaqeen Institute article describes Islamic mindfulness as a process of disassociating and disidentifying ourselves from our thoughts.
Right.
Our involuntary thoughts are just happenings, hadath, and do not necessarily reflect who we are.
It's fascinating how this concept aligns with the idea of letting go of attachment to our ego, which is a central theme in many spiritual traditions.
It's about recognizing that we are not defined by our thoughts and emotions, but rather by our choices and actions. And Islamic mindfulness provides a framework for making those choices in alignment with our faith and values.
We've talked about the benefits of Islamic meditation in general.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know how it can help us navigate those specific challenges we face in life.
Sure.
For example, can help us cope with stress or anxiety.
Absolutely. One of the key benefits of mindfulness practice, both in Islam and in other traditions, is its ability to help us regulate our emotions. When we're feeling stressed or anxious, it's like our minds are racing and we're caught in a cycle of negative thoughts.
Right.
But mindfulness practices like focusing on our breath or reciting dhikr can help us interrupt that cycle and create a sense of calm and grounding.
So it's about bringing ourselves back to the present moment, focusing on something positive and grounding like our breath or the remembrance of Allah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Yaqeen Institute article mentions a specific mindfulness exercise designed for Muslims.
Okay.
It involves finding a quiet place, focusing on your breath, and cultivating the feeling of Allah's presence, using an anchor, a chosen phrase or image, to gently bring your mind back when it wanders.
I love the idea of an anchor. Like a lifeline, a reminder of our connection with Allah, even amidst the chaos of our thoughts and emotions.
And the article emphasizes that this anchor can be personalized. It could be a verse from the Quran, a divine name, or even a simple word like peace or gratitude, whatever resonates most deeply and helps you reconnect with that sense of muraqabah.
This is all making so much sense.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how Islamic meditation in all its forms can be a powerful tool for navigating the challenges of modern life and cultivating a deeper connection with Allah.
It's a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth, a process of aligning our inner world with our faith and values.
Right.
And the more we practice, the more we integrate these principles into the fabric of our daily lives.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've spent the last 2 parts exploring Islamic meditation.
Yeah.
From the concept of muraqabah to the 5 practices outlined in the About Islam article, and the deeper nuances discussed in the Yaqeen Institute piece. Now I'm really eager to talk about how we can put all of this into practice.
It's one thing to understand the concepts, but quite another to actually integrate them into our lives.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people might feel a bit lost when it comes to the how-to of Islamic meditation. It's not always as structured as other forms of worship.
That's true, but it's also what makes it so adaptable. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. The key is to find what resonates with you and your personal spiritual journey.
So it's more about guidelines than rigid rules.
Precisely. Think of it as creating your own spiritual workout routine. You have the core principles, like mindfulness of Allah, cultivating stillness, but how you achieve that can vary.
That's a helpful analogy.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off feeling like you have to do it perfectly right from the start.
And remember, even the Prophet, PBUH, experienced moments where his mind wandered during prayer.
Right.
It's a natural part of being human. The key is to gently bring your attention back to the present moment, to the remembrance of Allah.
Speaking of bringing your attention back, I was really intrigued by the concept of choosing an anchor.
Yes.
That was discussed in the Yaqeen Institute article. Can you remind us what that is and how it could be helpful?
An anchor is simply a word, phrase, or even a mental image that you can use to refocus your mind when it inevitably wanders. It could be a divine name, a verse from the Quran, or even something as simple as the word peace.
So it's like a mental touchstone that brings you back to a state of muraqabah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that you can choose an anchor that resonates deeply with you.
Right.
Something that evokes a feeling of connection with Allah.
I love that. It's like having a personalized tool for mindfulness.
Yeah.
That you can use anytime, anywhere.
And the more you use it, the stronger that connection becomes.
Right.
You can even start to use your anchor outside of formal meditation whenever you feel stressed, distracted, or overwhelmed.
It's like a portable mindfulness practice.
Now, in terms of actually creating a routine for Islamic meditation,
Okay.
it's helpful to start by considering your goals. What are you hoping to cultivate through this practice?
Right. Are you seeking more focus in prayer? Greater peace and tranquility in your daily life?
Yeah.
A deeper understanding of your relationship with Allah?
Once you have a sense of your why, you can start to explore different practices and see what resonates with you. Maybe you start with a few minutes of tafakkur after Fajr prayer.
Okay.
Or perhaps you dedicate some time before bed to mindful Quran recitation.
I like the idea of experimenting and finding what feels most natural.
And remember, consistency is key. It's better to start small, even just 5 or 10 minutes a day, and gradually build up your practice over time.
So no need to overwhelm ourselves with hour-long meditation sessions right off the bat.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to seek out guidance. Talk to a trusted friend who has a meditation practice, find a local group, or even consult with a scholar. Having that support can make all the difference.
Speaking of guidance, is there anything that's considered off-limits for Muslims who want to meditate?
That's an important question. While there's a lot of flexibility within Islamic meditation, it's crucial to ensure that your practices align with Islamic principles. For example, anything that involves invoking other deities or engaging in practices that contradict the teachings of Islam would be clearly prohibited.
So it's about staying within the boundaries of our faith tradition.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, it's always best to err on the side of caution and consult with a knowledgeable scholar.
It sounds like there's a lot of room for personal exploration within those boundaries.
Absolutely. And that's part of the beauty of this path. It's a journey of self-discovery, a process of deepening our understanding of ourselves and our relationship with Allah.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what final words of advice would you give to our listeners who are feeling inspired to explore Islamic meditation?
Be patient with yourself. It's a practice, not a destination. Some days will be easier than others and your mind will wander. That's perfectly normal. Just gently bring your attention back to your anchor, to the remembrance of Allah. And most importantly, approach this journey with an open heart and a sincere desire to connect with the divine.
This has been an incredible exploration. I feel like we've gone from feeling a bit intimidated by the idea of meditation in Islam to having a toolbox of practices and a roadmap for incorporating it into our lives.
I hope our listeners feel empowered to embark on this journey and discover the transformative power of Islamic meditation for themselves.
And who knows, maybe we'll revisit this topic in a future deep dive. There's always more to learn and explore. Until then, may you find peace, stillness, and a deep connection with Allah through the practice of Islamic meditation.